We all get that there are rules for how we act in the real world, right? But what about our digital lives? I mean, from the moment you check your phone in the morning to that last scroll at night, you're basically a citizen of this huge online world. And just like any other society, it's got its own rules, its own ethics, and a whole set of responsibilities we really need to get into.
I mean, really think about that for a second. Every single search you make, every post you like, every message you send, it's all contributing to this permanent version of you that lives online. And this isn't just about privacy, folks. It's way bigger than that. It's about the actual identity you're crafting, piece by piece, sometimes without even knowing you're doing it. And that, right there, is the key idea we're talking about today. We're not just users or consumers passively clicking around. We're netizens. That means we're actual citizens of the internet. We have a real part to play in this digital society. So the big question is, what does it actually take to be a good one?
All right, let's dive right in. First up, let's talk about your second self, that online identity we're all creating and the traces we leave behind, a lot of the time without even thinking about it. So, this is what everyone calls your digital footprint. It's basically the sum of everything you do online, and it creates this surprisingly detailed picture of who you are. But here's the real kicker. It is way more permanent than most of us ever stop to think about.
And what's super interesting is that this footprint isn't just one thing. It's actually got two sides to it. First, you've got your active footprint. That's the stuff you do on purpose, like posting on social media, sending emails, that kind of thing. But then there's the passive footprint. This is the data that gets collected in the background without you even lifting a finger, like your search history, your IP address, or where you're located. It's like one is what you tell the world you are, and the other is what your actions show the world you are.
Okay, so let's move on to the next part of our digital day, how we actually socialize with other people. Because let's be real, the rules of communication totally change when there's a screen between you and the other person. And yeah, not always for the better. And there's actually a name for this. Psychologists call it the online disinhibition effect. It's a fancy way of saying that when people feel anonymous online, they tend to drop their inhibitions and say things they would never dream of saying to someone's face. It's pretty much the reason comment sections can turn into a total dumpster fire, right? And you can really see the difference here. When you're talking to someone in person, you see their reaction. You can read their body language. There are instant consequences if you're a jerk. But online, that whole feedback loop is just gone. You feel invisible. And that feeling can, sometimes bring out the absolute worst in people. So this all boils down to some pretty basic netiquette, or internet etiquette. For starters, please don't use all caps. It's just shouting online. Try not to get sucked into those pointless flame wars. And this is a big one. Absolutely never, ever share someone's private information. That's called doxing, or engage in cyberbullying. At the end of the day, just remember, there is a real, live human being on the other side of that screen. All right, next up, let's shift gears and talk about our role as creators. Because think about it. Every time you write a school paper, post a photo, or even just share a meme, you're putting content out into the world. You're a publisher. And that comes with a whole new set of ethical rules to follow. Okay, this is a big one, and it's super important to get the difference. On one hand, you've got plagiarism. That's an ethical problem. It's when you pass off someone else's ideas as your own. The fix? Simple. You cite your source. But then you have copyright infringement. That's a legal problem. It means you're using someone's creative work without their permission, and just saying where you got it from doesn't automatically make it okay. So, how do you make sure you avoid plagiarism? It's actually a pretty simple 3-step guide. First, paraphrase. That just means you put the original idea into your own words. Second, if you need to use their exact words, put them in quotation marks. And third, and this is the most important part, always, always, always cite the original source. Seriously, it's that easy. So what about using other people's stuff legally? Well, that's where something called Creative Commons comes in, and it's so incredibly useful. It's basically a system that lets creators give everyone permission to share and use their work, but with a few conditions. You just have to look for these little symbols. By means you have to give them credit, and C means you can't use it for commercial purposes, and D means no derivatives, so you can't change it. And SA, or share alike, means if you make something new with it, you have to share your new creation under the very same license. And you know what? This whole spirit of sharing goes way beyond just photos and articles. It extends to software, too. You don't always have to shell out big bucks for powerful tools. For pretty much every big-name program out there, there's a FOSS, or free and open-source software alternative, that is often just as good. We're talking about things like LibreOffice instead of Microsoft Office, or GIMP instead of Photoshop. They are totally free, and they are seriously powerful. All right, time to move on to something I'm pretty sure we all do: shopping online. I mean, e-commerce is just so convenient, right? But it can also be a total playground for criminals if you're not paying attention. And one of the biggest threats you'll run into is something called phishing. This is when criminals send you an email or a text message that looks totally legit, like it's from your bank or Amazon or some delivery service. Their goal is to trick you into clicking a malicious link and handing over sensitive stuff like your passwords or your credit card numbers. So what's your number one line of defense against this stuff? It's simple. Always look for the lock. Up in your browser's address bar, you always want to see that little padlock icon and the letters HTTPS. That S at the end is the magic letter. It stands for secure, and it means your connection is encrypted, which helps keep your data safe from prying eyes. Okay, so here are 3 super simple rules for safe online shopping. Rule number 1, like we just said, always look for HTTPS. Rule number 2, try to avoid using public Wi-Fi, like at a coffee shop or the airport, for any financial transactions. It's just not secure enough. And rule number 3, turn on transaction alerts on your phone. That way, your bank will ping you the second a purchase is made, and you'll know right away if something's wrong. All right, for our last section, let's zoom out a bit and look at the bigger picture. Because being a good netizen isn't just about what you do as an individual. It's also about understanding the huge society-level issues that are shaping this digital world we all live in. And one of the biggest challenges we face is something called the digital divide. I mean, we take it for granted, but access to fast, reliable internet just isn't universal. There are huge gaps based on where you live, how much money you make, or even how old you are. This creates a world of digital haves and have-nots, and that really limits opportunities for a massive number of people. Another really fundamental idea for a fair and open internet is net neutrality. So here's the deal with that. It's the principle that internet service providers, the companies you pay for your internet, should have to treat all data online equally. They shouldn't be allowed to block or slow down certain websites, and they shouldn't be able to create paid fast lanes for companies that can afford it. The whole point is to keep the playing field level for everyone, big or small. And that brings us right back to where we started. You're not just a passive user scrolling through content. You are a netizen. Every single click, every post, every interaction you have is a tiny little brick you're laying down to build the internet of the future. You have a voice, you have a footprint, and you have a responsibility. So the only real question left is, how are you going to use that power?